So even though your client saw it as a new listing, and you obviously knew the difference when you went back and looked at it, regardless of what the price point is or how many price changes they've made or relisted or anything else, we're not just going to take that number at face value. We're still going to go back and do our homework and do our research and look at the sales in the area and look at the comparative sales and what's happened. Being on the market for a year, we'll be able to show our clients, here's why it didn't sell a year ago, because everything else was selling at this price point and they were way up here.
Right.
And they were no better in value. And now they've come down, they're a little closer in line with market value, but here's where I think the price is today based on what's happening. I mean, that's part of what we're going to do through this whole process.
And there's two parts of that. It's at the moment you may be considering an offer. You're looking at the comparables, but what has the market done since it was on the market originally? And that timeline, that trajectory, there's going to be a story there. And sometimes the number's stronger today, sometimes it's not. The last 12 months, I think we'd expect to see a lower number today.
Another, I guess, talking point around this whole pricing thing is when we're listing homes. So the market's had so many swings up and down that our sellers have a perception of what the value of their home is. We're going to do our research and come up with the value that we believe. We probably don't have the same we don't have the same vested interest in the sense that we don't have the emotional attachment to the home.
Right.
We're going to do it based on a factual calculation. And in all likelihood, there's going to be some disparity between what's
usually.
what.
Yeah.
When a buyer's coming to look at that client's home, if we've worked more in line with their price versus maybe where we are, when a buyer comes in and looks at that home, they're going to be doing, their agent, let's hope, is going to be doing the research, and they're going to probably come up with a number more in line with the market value that we've come up with, hopefully a little bit higher, obviously, towards our seller's price. One thing I want people to understand is that when a seller brings an offer, if it's not in line where you want it to be, you have three options. You can accept it, you can reject it, or you can counteroffer.
Right.
I always talk to my clients about if it's way out to lunch and you have no interest working with it because there's too many conditions in this offer that you want to work with, then you can always reject it. But if they were taking the time to come in and make an offer, I think we should take the time to give it consideration and come back with a response, with a counteroffer. If you reject it, you have a lot less likelihood of bringing that forward versus if you enter negotiations with the client. There might be some way to close that gap where everybody's happy.
Oh, more than likely. I'm the same way. I think a counteroffer almost always makes sense. Where you don't will be the exception more than the norm.
Yeah.
And that counteroffer, as you said, it's an opportunity for to at least have both sides at that point show their cards a little bit, see where you stand. You may still be miles apart and it'll go nowhere.
Yeah.
But you never know. That first offer the buyer put forward might have been a low ball just to test the water. You came back with a bigger number, and at that point, we're not going to get it for quite as low as we thought, and they come back to you with another counter that's more reasonable.
Yeah.
See all the time.
We do, and I find on the seller side, sellers get a little bit insulted by a low number, and I always try to tell people you can't take it personal. We're going to be doing the same thing on your end when you're buying, probably looking at.
I always remind them of that.
Right? So don't slight them for that, but let's try to work with them and get somewhere where you are happy.
Yeah.